Alright, as a high school senior, 18 years old, I didn't want to go to college, which was the standard path for most high school students in the States, and especially in my school. My school was predominantly Asian American, which Asians, they tend to place a high value on education. Therefore, most of my classmates were going to go to college, and they were talking all about it. And when you're when you're in that same group, it becomes so easy to just go along with it. Me though, I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't want to go to college. I felt that there was something out there, somewhere out there, greater than just doing what everyone else was doing. Problem was, I didn't quite know what that thing I wanted was. And when my parents found out, my mom especially, that I didn't want to go to college, they weren't very happy about it. Eventually, I remember my mom, she guilted me, saying things the likes of, I didn't work so hard to come to America for my son to not go to college. And my mom, she never went to college. So eventually, with all the nagging, I gave in. They didn't care, my parents didn't care whether I just went to the neighboring community college. Just that it was important that I went to college. And I felt that at that point, they had given up on me to an extent. I say that, and what I mean by that is they didn't expect me to have very good grades or go to the best college anymore by the time I was a high school senior. Just go to college, that was their attitude. And which I did. I didn't go to the community college though. I didn't want to live with my parents anymore. I wanted to learn how to live independently. So I went to the University of Nevada, Reno, which I'm from San Francisco originally, so it's maybe 200, 250 miles away in a different state, in Reno, Nevada. So I went there, and after getting all set up with the usual spiel, let's call it, the freshman orientation, signing up for classes, and getting set up in a dorm, which most freshmen live in a dormitory. After all that, school began. And I remember my freshman college roommate, he was a very tall guy, and he seemed like an alright fellow. He was an Alaskan from a broken family. We got on fairly well, just polite conversations, surface level conversations, we didn't get into anything too personal. And whenever we saw each other, we were roommates, we saw each other quite often. It would be like a hello, how you doing, and something to that likes. So that was the roommate, and outside of class, I remember I had too much free time on my hands. I had a difficult time adjusting. So for example, I spent too much time sleeping, slept too much, slept till maybe 10 in the morning, sometimes past that. I spent too much time in the gym. I wasn't very naturally inclined to make friends, so I didn't know anyone there, it was just me. I fell for Parkinson's law, which is you expand your tasks to fill up your time. I had too much free time on my hands, so everything just expanded. I spent too much time doing everything. And in terms of living in Reno, it was a bit of a culture shock to me. I had culture shock in my own country. I grew up in the Chinese American community from elementary to high school. And I went to schools that were maybe 70% Asian American. They had a similar background to me. Most were the sons and daughters or grandsons and granddaughters of Chinese immigrants. So we all had a similar background. And now when I was in Reno, especially when I first got to Reno in 2014 when I was a college freshman, it was predominantly white. And just the way things were done, from how people interacted, to male-female relationships, to just how people talked in general, and a bunch of other more subtle things. It was all different. So that was my first real experience of culture shock. And when I was dealing with all this, trying to adjust to living independently, which is what I wanted. I remember my roommate that I talked about previously. As time went on, he started becoming less pleasant. There were less highs and lows. We would just look at each other and do whatever it is that we were doing. Started behaving less courteously, and eventually some of his behavior was outright rude, which I won't get into details on, but eventually it got to the point where we would just ignore each other. However, towards the beginning of the second semester of my college freshman year, he just moved out all out of the blue. He didn't tell me. Just one day I walked in the room and all his stuff was gone. So he left. I didn't have another roommate, which I normally like to keep to myself, having my own place, which I was happy about. So, and that was the only roommate I had from, ever. Minus all the countless hostels I've been in, I never really had a roommate. Had some housemates, but never a real roommate. That Alaskan I had my college freshman year, he was the only one. And some lessons that I take away from learning how to live independently for the first time when I was a college freshman back in 2014 at the University of Nevada, Reno. Well, I learned two main things I want to take away from this experience. So first is dealing with culture shock. That's just going to be a thing when you are moving from city to city or country to country, continent to continent. You're going to be in a new environment where sometimes you don't know anyone. You're just going to learn how to adapt. And there are guidebooks, but it's something that you have to learn through experience. Some things you just have to learn by yourself. Learn by getting your hands dirty and actually getting into it. Which learning to live independently and dealing with culture shock, that's one of them. And all the things that you have to do to maintain self-sufficiency when you're on your own. It's like riding a bike or taking a cold shower. These things no one can really teach you. You have to do them by yourself. And one way I've learned to help with this adjustment of living independently in a new place, dealing with culture shock, is you need to have a goal. No matter how humble that goal may be, you need to have something that keeps you focused on doing something, moving your life forward somehow, improving yourself. So for me, by the time I was a college sophomore, I was working two jobs. One was as a front desk assistant in the college dormitories, which I lived in the previous year. I was a front desk assistant, and I was a runner for the dormitory's dining hall. So I was working two jobs, plus I joined a club. It was a club about, we were learning Taekwondo, Korean martial art. So I just added more things into my plate, and it filled up my time, which is important when you're in a new environment. You need to do something, have something productive to fill up your time, which keeps you, focused. Which is what I did. It's nothing glamorous, especially not for, I was 19 years old at the time, nothing glamorous. It's something that, by the time I was a college sophomore, I had a lot more direction in my day-to-day life. It wasn't perfect, it's still not perfect, but it was a lot better than when I was first college freshman, when I was ruining my laundry because I didn't even know how to use a laundry machine. So yeah, that's the first takeaway I got from my college freshman year. You need to learn things by hand, oftentimes, and you need to have a goal to keep you focused while you're dealing with that. And when you have something that occupies your time, something productive, all these things you're dealing with in a new environment, which is beyond the scope of this video, they become more tertiary problems as you focus on a new goal that you're working on. Other things, they take a smaller role. And the second takeaway is when you're dealing with well, when you encounter new people, the analogy I like to use is it's a Muay Thai bout. Muay Thai is Thai boxing. So most times when you watch a Muay Thai bout, you have two fighters. If they don't know each other, they have not watched any video, any film of each other, and they've never fought each other before, the first round between them is normally is not as action-packed as the later rounds. Really, the first round is when they're feeling each other out, because they don't know each other, so they're just trying to get a sense of what their adversary is all about. And with dealing with new people in your own life, it's not to say that every person you deal with, you're going to try to take a swing at. No, that's ridiculous. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, whenever you encounter a new person, there's going to be a hesitation, and it's a defense mechanism that we have. If we act our normal way, we don't know how the other party is going to react. It may be something that is detrimental. So it's something we use to defend ourselves. So whenever two new people they meet, they tend to be more polite, overly polite, more polite than they normally are, and respectful than they are when they are going about their day-to-day lives. It's a human tendency that we approach new people with a sense of hesitation. Therefore, we maintain some distance. It's a polite distance by not trying to offend the other person because we don't know how the other person is going to react. That's what most people do. And I saw this first with my college roommate, my college freshman roommate. We started off at a distance. We were very polite and respectful to one another until my college freshman roommate wasn't, when he got to know me a bit more. And that was the first encounter with this Muay Thai bout that I use as an analogy. People being respectful to each other initially and then start behaving more like their normal selves. I've seen this repeated countless times, and knowing this and being aware of this human behavior, it's stood me well, and it will continue to stand me well as I continue to meet new people, as I move across cities, across countries, and across continents.